The photograph.
Like the old logo.
Mm.
So this is like, I was in New York, and we just published, this was the 10th anniversary logo. And we're sitting in this conference room, and I like push a magazine across the desk to Jan, and I said, sign one of these for me. You know, so he like says, Jim Parkinson, thanks for the logo, Jan Winter, July 1972 or something. There's this P.S. alterations included, which you see like he put with his pen, he put like all the swashes and stuff back on it. It's like the first day that it published with the new logo. Lettering, like a logo, all the letters are in a fixed position. It's like, if it's like, say it's like in style, it's always going to be in style. It's not going to be style in, or the letters aren't going to be rearranged in it. The letters are always going to be that way. So you only have to look at the character relationships in the fixed position that they're going to exist in. You don't have to make any of the compromises to make every letter work with every other letter. You know, you can like make these certain interactions like all unique, you know. But with a typeface, you have to consider every combination. So I think that's the major difference. When I do a typeface, it's kind of chicken shit. I start with the letter I. You know, people say, where do you start? I go, like, I start with the easy one, you know, because like, instant fulfillment, you know. You go, well, there's an I. I guess I could do an H now, you know. But yeah, so I just like, that's the way I live my life. I start with the easy things and like slowly work towards the harder things. And so that's the way I do an alphabet. I didn't want to do it. I was very cranky. I said, Ringling Brothers, Barnum, and Circus is a hell of a lot of words. You know, you expect me to like do sketches, you know? So like this, they told me the history of the logo, and they had these big binders that had like tons and tons of circus logos. They have like a red circus and they have a blue circus, and they've been going on and on since like the 1870s or 80s or 90s or something. Year after year after year, circus touring, another circus touring. And every year that the red circus would go out, they'd have some sign painter just like make them up a sign that says Ringling Brothers, Barnum, Circus. Then when the blue circus would go out, they'd have a sign painter make them up. So they never had a logo. They just had like their name done by a sign painter twice a year for like 100 years, you know what I mean? It's like kind of confusing. That's like not branding, you know? So I wasn't thinking, but when I looked through the books, somebody explained to me, sometimes the Ringling would be larger than everything else. And then sometimes the Barnum would be larger than everything else.
And sometimes the Bailey would be larger than everything else. And even though the principals had passed away, the people that like survived them had an interest in all this. So like if Ringling was too big, they'd all squawk, you know, the Barnums and the Baileys would squawk, and so then the next time the Barnums and the Baileys would be big and the Ringlings would be little, and that's the way the logos were continually different. And that's one of the things that made me decide to make everybody's name the same size. You know, like brilliant, you know, it's only took us like 70 years, but we've got it. So anyway, there's that. And then I told him I was only going to do one sketch because it was like an awful lot of words. The thing that was fun about inking is that it was a craft, you know? It was like being a cabinet maker or like a designing and making shoes or something like that. You were producing through your craftsmanship, like something physical, you know, that you could touch, you know? So like I worked at like being able to just like lay it down the first time, you know, like not get all involved in like pasting other pieces of paper over it and like using too much opaque. This is a pretty good example.
You know, some logos just, you know, just sometimes they just click, you know, and you just feel really good about them. Alphabets like a font, like when you look at letters or when you conceive of it or something. Me, not when you, but when I conceive of it, I have this kind of vision for it, and I'm drawing the individual letters and kind of putting them together. But then, like when there's enough of them where I can like set a little paragraph or something, then the letters interacting with each other create like another personality, not the individual personality of the letters, but like the personality of the whole. You know what I mean? And like that's a whole other thing to like, you draw the, you know, once you look at the personality of the whole thing, like a block of something, then you have to like go like, well, I think I need to go back into this, you know, because like you think all the letters are just right, but like they don't project the right personality, so then you have to start making adjustments. So
the first time I did the Newsweek logo, I inked it, and the second time I digitized it, and the third time I digitized it. But the first time I inked it, and after years and years of inking, I'm like really glad that digitizing came along because you could see how tall this is, how big it is. But anyway, and there's another board that has the N and the E on it. And like once I had it like all inked this big, then I got a stat and pasted it together about 3 feet long and like sent it out to them. If you look at it like this from the side, you can see all these patterns. See these kind of like patterns in here? Like I was like doing a lot of drugs, you know, and I knew that like if I just brushed the ink on it, it would like cause the one-ply Strathmore to buckle. So I would like just smoke dope and drink beer and just sit there with my pen. I just like ink in a little square, and then I'd ink in a little square down here, and just as a patchwork. It all kind of eventually got filled in, you know. I used to do everything that way. I'm trying to get my website kind of like a little better so that I can like leave it alone for long enough to learn how to like next time I do it in like Dreamweaver or Flash or whatever it is, you know. I've got a custom font that I'm working on, and I'm anxious to get it finished because in looking at my website, I see all the stuff that's wrong with the fonts I did, and I want to like redraw them all, turn them into open type, and I got a bunch of new fonts that I started working on, so I want to do those, and I want to paint my pictures of signs and hang out with my girlfriend. That's off into the future. Okay, hi, my name's Jim Parkinson. I'm a typographic artist and I live in Oakland, California.